way I thought 2024 was going to be a year of vlogging, and then the last video I posted was in January. I'm here. Hello. It's been 4 full seasons of feeling so many things and reading a lot as well, and just really consuming so much media. I wanted to do kind of like a year recap, or just some of the highlights from my reading of 2024, my takeaways, and where I'm situated now. That's my cat. So hi, hello, my name is Shel. If you're new here, this is a space where I can share what's on my mind, what I've been reading. Um, there was a time when I wanted this channel to be a space to talk about labor and the ways that my embodiment as a Black, Asian, non-binary person on the spectrum affected my relationship to work. Now it feels a little bit, it feels redundant to even like talk about that, because it's so obvious to me now that I've just been overworking myself and I've been putting myself in really toxic work environments, specifically retail. So I don't know, maybe if that emerges again, that will be something that I'll share in this space. But for now, I'm taking a break from the retail world, currently unemployed, um, fun employed, self-employed. I'm really just pouring a lot of energy into my apothecary right now, and relying on mutual aid, and just situating myself in each moment, day by day, doing everything that I can to stay resourced, stay rested, and stay joyful. I did my reading for 2025 tonight. I usually do two kinds of readings with tarot. So I'll do one for my personal year, usually like a day or 2 days before my birthday. And then I also do a reading for the Gregorian calendar year, which I'll do like a couple days before New Year's. So yeah, I already did my personal year reading in September, and that was pretty insightful. And I wanted to share one of the cards that I pulled for 2025. It was a card I pulled for myself, but I just felt so moved by the image and my takeaways around it that I wanted to share it with you as well. I feel like it fits along the lines of why I didn't make a YouTube video for 11 months, and kind of how I've been floating from job to job, or just like task to task, and what I've really been rooted in, and that's rest. So I pulled the Four of Swords, and this is the Shadowscapes deck by Stephanie Puimunla. And yeah, this card is so special. It just reminds me that the body is absolutely an authority on decision making. I've been listening to a lot of moonbeaming podcast episodes, and Sarah Faith Goddess Senior talks about tarot constellations, which I've not really looked that much into, but basically the Four of Swords would fall under the constellation of the Emperor. Yeah, I'm thinking about decision making. I'm thinking about what it means to be a leader for myself in my own life. And we often think of leadership and decision making in this very like masculine, yang way, but there is so much power in restoration, so much soft and profound power in making decisions from an embodied, receptive way. And yeah, I feel really hopeful looking at this card, as a forecast for next year because one, it means that I have a pathway to rest. I can tap into this card, I can tap into this energy. And I'm imagining what my life could look like if I slowed down and really allowed myself to maintain a state of calm and a state of serenity, and what it will look like for me to choose my peace.
This is Shell from the editing world, aka Shell in the future, aka Shell in the present, aka the Shell that realizes I spent a whole chapter talking about Black liturgies and I wasn't recording. So that's why in the next clip I say, and another book, even though it's the first book. Yeah, I spent a whole like 5 minutes talking about Black liturgies, and it's an amazing book. And I mean, I talk about it more later, as you'll see. So maybe it's okay that the clip isn't there, but for continuity, that's why we're going to this next clip.
Another book that I wanted to talk about that really captivated me this year is Under a Future Sky by Bryn Sato. And Bryn Sato is a Korean and a Japanese American poet. She has roots in Southern California, and this is a poetry compilation where she revisits the desert where her grandparents were interned. It's powerful, you know, she's connecting generational grief with what it's like to be an embodied Asian American woman in the States and just the sexist and racist things that she experiences, and tying that into relationship with the land, and the way that, you know, we can have a connection to land even if it's not where our people are like indigenous to, and that the land remembers these stories, and that so many of our stories as like POC have to do with colonization, have to do with imperialism, have to do with the violence of living in the belly of the beast. And yeah, I love that she just doesn't shy away from any of that. It's her lineage. And it's also deeply hopeful. And yeah, it took me a while to finish this compilation because it does feel pretty experimental and like academic. Um, Very like, yeah, highbrow poetry, not the most accessible. Um, but I just challenged myself to stick with it, and I really enjoyed it. So clearly, I was trying to read as many authors in my lineages as possible. So, Black liturgy is speaking to my Black American ancestry. I'm not Korean or Japanese, but I obviously love reading works by Asian women. And that's probably what drew me to Kingdom of Surfaces by Sally Wenmao. She is Chinese. I'm pretty sure she's queer. I was pleasantly surprised to see mention of like Black Lives Matter, Black liberation sentiments in this compilation. I'm so used to anti Blackness existing, just interwoven in the threads of so much like Asian American literature and media. And I shouldn't be, but it's like, this is my existence, right? So yeah, Kingdom of Surfaces was so powerful. I'll just read some of the back because this is what drew me to it when I saw it at the bookstore. In Kingdom of Surfaces, award-winning poet Sally Wenmao examines art and history, especially the provenance of objects such as porcelain, silk, and pearls, to frame an important conversation on beauty, empire, commodification, and violence. Period. Oh my god. Sally went the fuck off on this book, okay? She went the fuck off. She's talking about the Met. She's talking about museums. She's talking about colonization. She's talking about sexism. She's reimagining folklore and fairy tales. I also love how textural and sensory this compilation was. I mean, again, we're talking about surfaces and materials and goods. We're talking about like porcelain and marble. And so she's just using these really powerful words to mirror herself as being objectified as a Chinese woman. And I mean, you can see like every other page is like doggy eared. Oh, I also really love that she played with form. So she'll have a lot of poems that are shaped like vases, and it really just makes you feel like you're being immersed into the white colonizers' imagination through museum exhibits. And you are watching that as an embodied outsider, as someone who is affected by colonization and imperialism, and you're just watching the inner workings of white supremacy, wondering why they chose violence and why they prioritized power over actual culture. This year, I also released my third poetry compilation, Fish Songs, and so this is another standout poetry book that I read and reread and just held so close to my heart this year. It was a year full of really rich community experiences. I hosted my book launch at my favorite bookstore in San Diego, which is Le Balula in Barrio Logan. And it was amazing. I mean, we were all masked up. We were able to tap into some somatic silliness. We did some free writes. There was like partnered poetic exploration. I read the poem that I wrote for my mom to a room full of people in which my mom was also there and she cried. So it was just a powerful year of poetry for me in terms of reading it and getting my work published. I was published 4 times this year, which is like a huge deal. Being published 0 times in all of the years before, and then getting 4 confirmations in 1 year is so amazing. So yeah, Fish Songs is a huge standout book for how I'm viewing 2024. I can read a couple of poems because I can't just tease my own book and then not give the tea. This is a poem that I love to read at open mics, and it's called Water Damage. At no point in childhood did you believe your crying should be outgrown, so you took the shape of water and became many homes. In these water bodies, you cry for a life that can't be yours anymore. It's better now, still, you wish to hurt in a way you remember. Crying in a fully packed movie theater, on the doorstep of someone you thought you knew. In your car, and the Bluetooth keeps glitching, so tonight it's you and Kiss FM. Under the shade of an oak tree, older than you'll ever live. In the sheets you just washed, or the ones in which you were for weeks depressed and smelled of same, smelled of inescapable you. In the Mitsuha, where the aunties offer their solidarity by ignoring you, reaching across your quivering chin for the bok choy, and you wonder if they'll cook it the way your mother does. On the way home, you forget for a moment your fixation on feeling lost, only to find yourself crying over the skillet as the olive oil pops and shrinks the bok choy, your heart breaking all over again for your surrogate diaspora. This is a piece that I have not read or performed anywhere, and it was actually written after I decided to pull a very personal piece about my relationship to my father. I didn't feel ready to air that out into the world just because, I mean, it felt wrong to do that without having conversations with him and without trying to mend our relationship in person. And it's a piece that I really hold dear and I've shared with close friends, but I wasn't ready to put it in the book. So I ended up writing this piece as the final poem in the book. Um, and it draws on a lot of what I wanted to talk about and what I did talk about, but what you will never see, at least for the near future. So this poem is called On and On. My breath outruns the night as I watch you leave, and the poem writes itself. Under my skin, decades deep, a whole bloodline of fathers bearing slippery daughters, defying orders, genders, ashes, and embers. April jerks into the summer, and I've written you out of my memories, onto the pavement etched into plates caked with my ghosted diaspora. and somehow we remain plastered in time, stuck in the poem that unravels itself in wails, shadows, hollow plans, a thirsty future we are unsure how to feed. Meanwhile, the poem devours itself past midnight, leaves no crumbs. I call it improvisational prayer. Meanwhile, the poem vomits stanzas back out and backwards. I reconsider reconciliation. Meanwhile, the poem, half typed and nearly ripe, browns in the kitchen along with the avocados I will soon smash too. In the next book, I will bouquet my words for you. Put them in water, pray they don't wilt, feed them raw honey and dress my wounds. In the next book, the poem is overwintering itself. In the next book, the poem is sowing our what happens after. In the next book, the poem is the honeyed salve and the shape of father. Somewhere in my body is a star map lighting up the path that links us to each other, our ending, all right there, constellated and certain as sunset. I trail behind my dusk breath beneath an evening sky that collapses wet earth, watch you walk into an impossible midnight, and begin writing the poem myself. And that is Fish Songs. You can get it in my Etsy, and I think I have 4 copies left. But there's also an ebook, so if you want to support my work, please, please, please buy a copy of Fish Songs and tell me what you think. The last book that was truly a standout for me this year is none other than Poetry as Spellcasting. I'm pretty sure I talked about this book in some other vlog, and honestly it might have been a book that I read in 2023, but it's such a standout and I just had to spotlight it. So I draw a lot on Poetry as Spellcasting in the 4-week writing circle that I teach. The writing circle is called the Dream Seeding Circle, and it's for BIPOC creatives. And this compilation is also for BIPOC creatives, specifically cutie BIPOC witches and poets. And this book is amazing because I found it even after I started the writing circle, which was 4 years ago now. And I just found this book last year. And it resonates so much. I mean, we're talking about using language and crafting it to affirm collective liberation, to affirm futures that are rooted in care and post-colonial, and contend with all of the violence that comes with being in a human body and having to use language that is so limiting, right? How can we expand on language and shapeshift it and make it fit our needs or reflect the world that we really want to see for ourselves and our kin? And so yeah, Poetry as Spellcasting is just so moving. There's amazing exercises in here and prompts and just activations, and it's best performed with kin, okay? It's best performed in groups, in community, in circles. It is amazing for the solitary poetic witch, but it's even more powerful when you invite folks into this practice with you, which I would say is also the intention of Black liturgies. Black liturgies is meant to be read in community. So these books I devoured by myself, and I'm also in the process of bringing them into little like intimate dinners with friends and having like intimate book clubs. So yeah, highly recommend all of the books that I talked about. I'm just feeling really connected to my inner power, my sense of intuition, and my ability to move through difficult things and move through uncertainty. If you've made it to the end of this video, I invite you to take a sip of water, take a sip of your beverage, and take a few cleansing breaths with me. I have been watching a lot of YouTube videos lately, specifically Hitomi, love her. And I can also find myself getting really overstimulated, even when I'm consuming content that aligns with my values or really inspires me to just be my most embodied, loving self, it can be a lot of information. So I have been turning down my speed to like zero point 0.8 or sometimes even 0.75. And that is really grounding. It's helping me to be in my body while I'm also consuming things on a screen because it's such a disembodied experience. And so if that's what I'm doing in the way that I'm consuming, I would love to invite you to practice that as you're consuming these videos and future videos. So let's take a few cleansing breaths together. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And again, in through your nose and out through your mouth. So thank you so much for being here. Maybe I'll keep making videos. Maybe you won't see a new video for like another 10 to 11 to 12 months. But yeah, if you have been tuning in and you have been watching previous videos, thank you for being here. And yeah, I hope you have a beautiful rest of your 2024 and that you can call in the energies of safety and peace and love for next year. Until next time. Bye.